And we're live.
Good evening, good morning, good afternoon, wherever it is you are in the world, and welcome to New Orleans by Night. We start in the final days of the month of April, 4 months after the fall of the Camarilla city known as New Orleans to the Sabbat. There have been many comings and goings. Many of the city's kindred were lost or had abandoned New Orleans kindred. However, there were those that remained behind. There were those that felt an overwhelming loyalty to Prince Blythe. There were others that felt a loyalty to the city of New Orleans itself. Some were simply there and remained there for lack of a better option. In the end, it's all the same. The handful of individuals still reside just outside in a small town known as Lewisburg, part of the suburbs now, living in a rather demure area. Since arriving in the small town, Lila Gia, the now Malkavian Primogen, has been using what limited resources she had to bring about another chance at, well, her claim to fame, Gia Nightclub. While this building that she has bought and converted into a dance club is nothing compared to what her old establishment might have been, this is suitable for now. The old warehouse has been converted, lights and lounges, a wet bar, everything that is needed to make the entirety of the area enjoyable by both kindred and mortal alike. We start our scene with a new individual making her way into the city and into a door that is marked with, well, if anyone knew what they were looking for within the guise of the Camarilla, the Ankh would be enough.
Helena recognizes this Ankh as the first vaguely familiar thing she's seen in this city. And she walks inside of the nightclub, seeming almost in awe, as she's never actually been inside one of these establishments before. She takes her time sort of maneuvering around people and getting a look at them before heading over to the bar. In fact, it's the bar that really tips her off to to the purpose of this modern tavern. And so she decides to just sit there for a while, doing what she does best and watching the people interact around her.
The dance floor itself is set ablaze with a myriad of lights that beat on and shone and shimmer and glow and dazzle, all set to a very precise and choreographed set of motions, all tying in with the beats that are coming from the stage. An individual with almost platinum blonde hair and a large fur coated that has a high collar, rolled fur, stands with a headset upon her head and using the various devices on the rather expensive setup to drop beats similar to some of the greatest dubstep artists of the era. Just gonna roll a quick. And rolling quite well. Whether Helena is necessarily into dubstep or not, the music comes together in a beautiful cacophony as the crowd seems to react by gyrating and jumping in various in somewhat awkward ways, but all of them enjoying themselves immensely. Even those kindred hidden amongst the crowd are certainly getting into the mood.
I'm gonna go ahead and roll awareness to see if I can sense a power being used. Uh, uh, one success based on the difficulty.
Uh, you sense nothing. This is
Okay.
all just raw talent.
She'll lean back on the bar and sort of watch this DJ make her weird noises. She's definitely not one for this type of music, but perhaps this once she can learn to appreciate it.
As the set finally comes to a close with a crashing crescendo, the crowd erupts into uproar, and the woman makes her way off the stage, not addressing the crowd as per usual, simply going to the bar and letting the crowd dance to the programmed music on a playlist rather than actively try and make something special. As she approaches the bar, the individual known as Helena can get a good look at her. She's youthful looking, slender, perhaps even a bit sickly looking, at least in muscle tone.
No, this is just for Beacon of the Unholy.
Yeah.
Wait, my dice aren't showing up. I got a 4, an 8, a 3, and a 4.
Well, the one might be just enough that you can sense, without actually being in contact with her, you can sense something just slightly off of her. Given that Helena is an older vampire, this could be someone who follows a path, perhaps, rather than somebody who is necessarily just a evil being, let's say.
And I'll make a mental note of this as she approaches her in the bar and offer her a friendly smile. That was a captivating performance.
Lila will turn with a charismatic smile and simply nod. Thank you. It's it's been coming easier to me these nights. Tunes and the various vibrations, they enter my head all together at once in a bundle. What actually comes out through my fingers is, well, some might consider it art, others might consider it noise. This is simply something I act as a conduit for, nothing more, nothing less.
That's quite admirable. Many of the greatest artists were seen as hacks in their time.
I wouldn't necessarily call myself an artist, but all the same, I appreciate the praise. And I think I don't have my sheet up. Lila just cants her head to one side as she taps the bar for a drink. You're new. I haven't seen you around here before. Most of these patrons are all from towns over. I see the same ones every evening, just about.
Oh, I'm not from terribly far away, but I've just come here recently.
I see. Do you have a name, stranger?
Of course. And she'll extend her hand and smile. Helena, and yourself?
Lila takes the hand gently and simply says, Lila Gia, owner, operator, performer of this wonderful establishment. And if at that point you wish, you can roll another perception and awareness.
2988.
Oh yeah, that pings pretty quickly. from just the direct contact. Um, Helena will get a certain sensation from her. It seems almost familiar. It seems old, very, very old, but there's just something about her, as your specific bloodline can feel from her, that just strikes you as wrong. It almost feels as though when you touch her hand, there is just so many echoes of something moving just under the skin.
I'm gonna roll subterfuge to not seem startled by that. I've got 633961199, so that's 4 at base difficulty.
Alright, I will be rolling Lila's perception empathy. She's a little lacking on this, but we'll see what happens. That's a botch! Lila is unaware. Lila thinks that you really like her, judging on your face. She moves a bit closer, suddenly intrigued by this person's sudden, keen interest.
Helena, in this expert cover-up of her almost worry about Lila, she sort of smiles and looks down at the bar in a way, brushing some hair behind her ear, in a way that, while to her she seems able to hide the lack of comfort, to Lila, she might have a bit of a crush on her.
Which, like a shark sensing a drop of blood in the water, is on that immediately, though ill-advised as it may be. She does reach out and just gently moves some of the hair off of Helena's ear and smirks. I do love what you're doing with your hair. It's not often you see an individual willing to wear such a bold hairstyle.
Oh, thank you. Well, I've had it for a couple of years now. Difficult to grow your hair out anymore.
Anymore? I take it then that you're... And she leaves it open for Helena to finish the conversation.
Helena will pause for a moment, as she's not one for breaking the masquerade. I'm afraid my hair's been damaged by quite a bit of bleaching.
And the lie detector determined that was the truth. Jesus Christ. Look at these ones.
I got 2 10s on the lie, but I guess if you failed, that doesn't matter.
Doesn't matter for anything. Really? What a shame. What a shame.
Sorry?
She'll sit back a bit and just let out a huff. No, I simply thought that you were more inclined towards my society.
Your society?
Indeed, my society. At this point, Lila, if Helena is definitely immortal, which she could very well be considering how well her subterfuge has been this evening, has made the decision that if she is immortal, she will either be ghouled properly or simply not exist beyond tonight. And she's being rather bold, perhaps playful even. Indeed, my society. And she'll give Helena a toothy grin.
Well, perhaps you could tell me a bit about it. I'd like to move among some interesting crowds.
Certainly sure you would. And as the bartender sets her drink down, Helena can make her perception alertness roll.
762.
Yeah, you can smell the blood.
And, she's not going to really try to hide this. In fact, Lila will notice her immediate attention being on the blood. She sort of looks at it as one would look at, well, the look of almost sexual frustration on her face, the kind that Kindred know well enough when confronted with blood. Not tempted to frenzy, but, well, her attention has definitely been drawn from Lila.
Lila will observe this, and then just simply slide the glass in Helena's direction.
She'll smile at her and take it, and then take a sip. On the other hand, I may know exactly what you're talking about.
Lila will simply smirk. You're good. You're very good.
Thank you.
It's a shame. And here I was about to think that I was going to gain a new ghoul.
Oh, I'm sorry to disappoint.
It's only...
It's been a long time since I've been a ghoul.
Really now? Do tell.
Oh, well, a couple of years ago I met this guy at a place kind of like this, but it was smaller. And things sort of played out similar to how they're playing out now. Subterfuge roll.
Empathy roll.
3. 3 successes on that.
Because the evening's gone so well tonight. Willpower. Didn't do a goddamn thing. I hate this game. Even as a storyteller, I'm getting screwed. Lila will take what Helena says at face value. Simply sitting back as another glass is brought to her, and she drinks from the almost obsidian color, or the almost volcanic glass nature of the cup that she's drinking from. She brings it to her lips and just takes a long drink from it, letting a bit of the blood trickle down before lapping it up with her tongue. So then, what lineage do you hail from?
Oh, I'm from the Clan of the Rose, if that's what you're asking.
We're doing this all friggin' night, aren't we? Jesus! Botchamania!
Oh my god.
Smooth sailing.
Oh, fuck off, Max.
There is nothing that would convince you otherwise.
Not anymore. Not unless a certain thing is shown, no. Lila nods. So, Clan of the Rose. It's nice to meet you. She'll offer out the hand again.
She'll take it. It's nice to meet you too. What clan do you hail from?
Lila will take the hand in almost a Shakespearean manner and place a kiss on the back of it. Lila Gear,
Laughable.
Primogen of the Shattered Mirror.
Oh, I never would have guessed.
Really?
I apologize if that was a rude thing to say.
Not necessarily, though most people pick up on me fairly quickly. They say I have certain eccentric mannerisms.
Well, all artists are a little eccentric.
True. I've certainly seen many roses that act far more mirror-like than even most mirrors.
Oh, I'd imagine.
But such is life when you're entranced by beauty and art and other things that uh, well, things of a more well-rounded circle.
Well-rounded.
Well, those of us that were born into what were at one time considered low clans would be considered something of rabble to old blood. And new blood, well, perhaps there is less of a rift there than there used to be. But as I hear it, a long time ago, the Shattered Mirror was nothing more than peasants amongst the order of those of the Scepter and all of the other various clans that stood highborn over ours.
Ah, I see.
So, I have a question. Camarilla? Sabat? Or perhaps something even more interesting?
It's difficult to say, to be honest. I suppose, if anything, Camarilla.
Oh, you don't sound so sure.
Well, I definitely have no place amongst the Sabbat, though I've yet to be formally introduced to the Camarilla as well.
That is a shame. But you're here now, I see. But you're all very glad that you're here. And Lila will begin to simply cant her head to one side, and her eyes just around the corners of the almost cyan blue irises just seem to, just around the edges, sort of have a slight blackness to them. And you can roll a perception alertness to key in on that.
7, 8, 10.
Yeah, you can just see the slight swirl of darkness just behind those irises. And that would be a difficulty 7 for you, so I think I can get a low virtue, a weak willpower, or a poorly defended avenue of approach.
3 doesn't count as a weak virtue, does it?
Not really, no.
I don't understand entirely what a poorly defended avenue of approach is.
It could be something conversational, like if Lila were looking away to tear down walls or try and get you to bite a little bit more at a hook that you were to place out in conversation. It would be something small, nothing major, but just maybe a way to gain your interest a bit more.
Sorry, I have to actually think about this. Poorly defended avenue of approach. I suppose she's more likely to assume your intentions are good than bad. Does that work?
Yeah, that works.
Okay.
Lila will turn in her stool a bit, turning it out towards the crowd as she leans back, crossing one leg up over the other. So, Helena, how much have you heard about the fall of the fair city of New Orleans?
Practically nothing, really. I was beginning to think there was no kindred population here.
Really? She turns her head slightly. You didn't hear about the tiff between the city and the Tremere High Regent?
No, I didn't.
Ah. Well, allow me to tell you a little tale. You see, not long ago, a member of your clan murdered let's say five members of the clan Tremere, all at once. Those that had some importance to the pyramid itself.
Oh, wow.
That has left the Tremere angry, and they called in personal boons owed to them all the way up to the top to ensure that New Orleans got no support in trying to retake the city.
So what happened?
Well, we sit on this side of Lake Pontchartrain while the Sabbat have free run over New Orleans.
That's unfortunate.
So here we sit on this side of the lake, doing what we can to keep our own safe. Intentionally wording it that way to try and play on Helena's heartstrings just slightly.
It's very sad. I always thought that the Tremere cared for nothing more than the safety of their fellow Camarilla. There is a tinge of bitterness in that.
Just because I want to see what happens, I'm just going to roll. Yeah, still not great. The ones are going away slowly, but not enough. Perception, empathy. How much bitterness is there unless you're trying to mask it?
Quite a bit. She doesn't seem terribly fond of the Tremere. Or
Oh,
rather, she thinks them hypocrites.
I will turn with a raised brow at the bitterness in Helena's voice. Not a fan, I take it.
They just seem more underhanded than they let on. It worries me.
Well, that's not exactly the news of the century now, is it?
I suppose not.
I can't say I disagree with you. Everybody's heard rumors of the Tremere gathering individuals and experimenting on them, captives of war and things of that nature. Not recently, it was divulged to me about the truth of the species of our kind known as gargoyles.
Oh?
Indeed.
What is a gargoyle?
Oh, it is a type of kindred that, in all aspects, looks exactly like what you would expect. Wings, stony skin, terrible appearance. Apparently that they were attempting at one time to build these out of other kindred. So the story goes, anyway.
That's horrible.
One of many horrible things I'm sure the Tremere get up to within their chantries.
I'm afraid those are secrets I don't want to know.
Oh, but don't you? She says with a genuine question. Knowledge is power, and power to us is everything.
Yes, but the wrong knowledge could get you killed, couldn't it?
Very much true, I suppose. And Lila is going to roll a... what's your courage?
4.
Okay, so that'll be difficulty 8. Trying to play on the need to be kind and things of that nature. Lila begins to work out a plan in her head to try and paint herself more as a victim with fear of the Tremere. So she's going to use Fear of the Void below. So it's my wits and intimidation. Which is... doo-doo. I forgot. That is my dump stat. Even with XP. So yeah, not going to do willpower point because if I score too well, you're going to go run screaming. So difficulty 8. Ah, yes, the one success. That's exactly what I was actually hoping for. Okay, so essentially, playing on inadequacies, and the inescapable consequences of shortcomings. You would go into a sort of a unease, a bit of terror based on this Since the Sin previous roll, as though perhaps perhaps the kindness that you hold to, that seems to be inherent with your very being, needs to be expressed more as Lila takes on a rather pensive expression.
And this works pretty perfectly on Helena's caregiver nature. So she reaches out a hand and puts it on Lila's shoulder, and just for a bit of comfort, and gives her a smile. Don't worry, okay?
See, Helena, there's a certain fear I have. A fear that if the Tremere knew too much about me and the nature of, well, the nature of the power that I hold, nature to divine things, just as Malkavians do, so to speak, that I would be used in their experiments to see beyond what they can't see. Live on edge in any city with Tremere in it, and now with a Tremere prince, even more so.
I understand your worries, but surely they couldn't do that without alerting the attention of their fellow Camarilla.
You hear stories, of course, of kindred of good standing in a city simply just disappearing. Perhaps a conversational misstep with a regent, or simply finding out something they shouldn't have. Given that this ability of mine allows me to see things that others can't, I worry one day that I'll look through the looking glass and be drawn deeper in than I ever wanted to go. And with so very few allies on my side, I fear that it would only be a matter of a small margin of effort on their part. And she's playing it up really hardcore right now. In fact, I'll roll for Lila, I'll roll this charisma and maybe manipulation and expression on this one. Bless you.
Thank you.
Goodness gracious me. Well, one success trying to get that a point across. Oh wait, no. I think Lila has an enchanting voice, doesn't she?
Yeah. But either way, the words that were chosen definitely do seem to strike a chord with Helena as she sort of tightens her grip on her shoulder. Look, if it's worth anything, I could help you.
Lila will turn her gaze up with a slight look of I don't even know really how to put this. Just a certain look of appreciation that comes over her eyes, which is genuine in some ways. I'm not going to say it's disingenuous, because Lila always appreciates it when somebody. It's appreciated, but not in the way that maybe one might think. If that makes any sense.
Mm-hmm. Helena, of course, normally seeing the best of people, won't notice anything wrong with this.
You know, I find it funny, most Kindred aren't really this willing to help others this way.
It's a very tightrope we walk, isn't it?
Depends on the individual. Certain members of our number don't hold true to the mortal values, let's say. I know I had to abandon them some time ago simply just to stay sane. Something that part of me somewhere laments.
If I may ask, what is it that you believe now?
Loyalty, unfailing to those like me, those that hold the same beliefs. It's all that keep us together.
She nods. Still fairly noble.
Well, I'd like to say that I was born in the tail end of eras of honor. But then again, I was also raised in a time when one human being could own another and treat them as property.
Well, as they say, every saint has a past, and every sinner a future.
This is true. Though I do fear that all of us do have a devil on our shoulder. And sometimes the angel, so to speak, is not quite as vocal as we'd all like.
No. It's been an uphill battle every day, hasn't it?
She again takes on the somber expression, more than you know sometimes.
She sort of smiles a bit sadly. I suppose so.
But enough of this, she says, and raises her hands up. Not to be somber, meeting new people should be a joyous experience.
I suppose so. For what it's worth, I've had a good talk with you. I'm afraid that I betray my clan stereotype in not being the most socially adept.
That can easily be forgiven and overlooked, perhaps even forgotten. There are not many good eggs amongst us, and you definitely seem like one.
Thank you. I've been trying. And she smiles. She does seem genuinely touched by this compliment.
I'm gonna roll a slight, or not a slight, but just a manipulation subterfuge to try and hide the fact that there's a certain part of her that finds that disgusting and reprehensible, but... 1, 2, 3, 4 successes.
Do some perception and empathy on that.
Finally, your chance.
See, 6, 5, 9, 10, 4.
6, 5, 9, 10, 4.
So I think you're the defender on this.
Slightly. 6, 9. You have 3 successes there, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, so...
Oh, okay, I didn't see your 9.
Yeah, I've got 4.
Okay, cool.
So yeah, she genuinely seems to, from what you can tell anyway, that she seems to genuinely mean that, and she does seem to value Helena's goodness, so to speak. Are you planning on staying in the city long, or just simply passing through?
I haven't decided yet. I've been looking for a place to call home, but
I will gently take Helena's hand, and with both of hers, just take one of Helena's and just simply hold her fingers, so to speak. Well, if you're looking for a place, I do have a small 2-level that I call home. It's not much, but it is comfortable. Cozy, even. If you can manage to sit in front of a fireplace, at least, in sweltering weather.
I really appreciate the offer, but I couldn't intrude upon your home.
Oh, it's no
I'll
intrusion.
find a place, temporary or not.
Oh, come now, Helena. There's no intrusion. Besides, I'm good friends with Miss Lillian Carlyle, the Toreador Primogen.
Oh, I see. Perhaps you could introduce me to her.
I would be more than happy to. Her and I have been friends for a small bit of time, but the experiences we had escaping together from New Orleans as it was besieged made us close. There aren't too many people that will watch your back for you like that and take your pranks with good nature. I did convince her to completely cover herself with sewage to try and hide when we needed not to.
That is gross.
It is, yes, vile, but at the same time, given the situation, I thought a bit of levity might have been called for. She seemed to appreciate the joke after the fact, or at least after a shower, anyway.
Well, from what I've heard, nobody knows a good timing for a joke better than a Malkavian.
The Shattered Mirror certainly do have their penchant for antics. Though there are some, though, that take this a bit far sometimes. I have seen my fair share of Malkavians who I often wonder if their derangement is simply immaturity or randomness. And out of character, that's definitely a shot. Shots fired.
Well, I suppose I can't say anything on the matter. I have little insight into the way their minds work.
Could learn sometime. I do have the ability to share in experiences. And she holds out a hand and simply touches the side of Helena's head. If you were ever willing, I can dive into that head of yours and see what you can see, and then implant some of that which I have experienced.
I'm afraid I wouldn't walk away from the experience entirely intact.
How so?
It's odd, some of our powers. We force ourselves into others, and it just worries me that it would damage them more than we think.
It's possible. Though the few times that I have used the power of Auspex on someone in that capacity, they seem to suffer no ill effect. But then again, I wasn't working like a surgeon trying to pull anything out or insert anything in, just simply observing and communicating.
Oh, I see. It's just odd to me. I suppose I'm not practiced enough in aspects to really try it.
Or perhaps something simple then. And she holds out both of her hands. Would you care to have a conversation with me? There's
She'll,
definitely there's a sly smile on Lila's face.
she does look fairly uncomfortable at this as she shakes her head. Perhaps another time.
That's only fair, she says rather matter of factly, and simply stands as she takes one last sip out of her cup and then slides it back to the bartender, who quickly takes it out of sight, as well as the one that was in front of Helena. Well, come fly with me, little bird, and I'll show you my home and just how cozy it can be. Perhaps even if only for tonight you can stay.
I suppose I could at least pay you a visit after how kind you've been to me this evening.
Well, hospitality is on the list of any good primogen, is it not?
I suppose so. And she will stand up, give the bartender a polite nod, and follow Lila out of the building.
Lila will chuckle after stepping outside. That's the third time this evening I haven't tipped him, I just realized. And I don't believe you paid for your drink either.
Oh dear, I was so enthralled in our conversation I entirely forgot.
Ah, don't think on it. I own the place. I'll take it out of my own expenses if I really have to. But all the same, she'll walk up to it doesn't look as nice as the car that Lila normally had driven around in. This is more of a used car, something of a sporty coupe, perhaps a late model Eclipse or something of that nature. And she'll open the passenger side for Helena.
Helena will step into the car, close the door behind her, and she does take extra care to fasten her seatbelt.
Lila will get in and fastens hers as well. You know, I've never understood the need for seatbelts for our kind.
Well, I suppose it wouldn't be upholding the masquerade if we were to go flying from our windshield and get up and walk away.
Oh, maybe, or if you got down on your knees and suddenly proclaimed to the Heavenly Father that you were saved.
Maybe a little too theatrical.
or perhaps a bit too disgraceful.
Disgraceful.
Lila realizes her conversational misstep and immediately changes the subject. What sort of music do you like?
Helena raises an eyebrow at this sudden change of pace. Oh, I'm a fan of classical myself.
Not my first choice, but perhaps something older, but still new in its own right, at least relatively speaking.
Oh, by all means, whatever you'd like to listen to.
And she'll place a CD into the CD player, not even bothering with the iTunes. Yes, this vehicle is that old. It's not equipped for an iPod. And you start to hear the sounds of more of a ragtime beat, almost jazzy in some ways, start to play. I love clown music so very much.
Helena will just lean back and listen to it. It's a fairly new type of music for her, actually.
And with that, the two drive off into the night. And I do believe we can call that a scene.
Mm-hmm.
You have the button.